Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet for wieners.
Now listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It is the Barbecue Central Show. We only talk about important things that are happening in the industry today. The show originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
As I'd mentioned a few moments ago, still to come on this show tonight, Byron Chisholm, Bad Byron, buttrub.com. That's BUTT rub.com. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. Go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show to watch, or watch over on the Twitter. Twitter.com/BBQ Central Show. You can also watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. We have a new YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody watching through YouTube and all guests. The worst sports games to watch are all-star games of any type, and currently 80% of you are saying yes, those are the worst games to watch. It was almost back up to 90%. It has worked its way back to an 80-20 again. It's probably going to live there through the rest of the show. But we'll see what happens through the next 60 minutes or so. By the way, if you didn't see it posted or pinned on the top of the YouTube channel, if you want to call in to the show, you can use the live call-in link from Zoom. That's actually probably not up anymore, right? Let me close that. No, go all the way down. I guess it's still connected. I don't know. Maybe the timer doesn't start until somebody actually connects it. Anyway, if you want to try and bump in, we got Byron Chisholm coming up. If you've always wanted to ask Byron a question, we might be able to at least mix in your audio question if he's game for taking live questions. So I'll keep checking on that, and we'll see what happens. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 371, taking you back to February 15th of 2013. You know, gang, there have been so many things that have happened on the show over the last almost 20 years. And the one we are bringing back this coming Friday is one of those where if somebody asked me, what's your favorite part of the show, or what has been one of your favorite parts of the show or guest or segment, inevitably recency bias is going to come into play without question. However, without John going back and listening to these old shows, I would have never recalled this one that you're going to be hearing on Friday. So back in 2013, Chad Ward from then Whiskey Bend Barbecue, he was probably also doing his Whiskey Bend Barbecue in the Pit podcast back then as well. We make a wager. Now, I don't remember what the specific wager entailed, but it seems that I won. I don't know what my side of payment would have been had I lost, but it doesn't matter because I didn't lose. I won. However, Chad lost, and his side of payment was that if he lost, which he did, he would have to come on the show live and not only shave his head, he had to shave his carefully manicured chin beard, which was very important to Chad at the time. It was also even more important to Chad's lady friend at the time, who loved the hair on his head, but she loved the chin beard more than the hair on his head. And she's the one that actually did the shaving. So I don't have any idea where the video would be on this, but the audio that you'll hear on Friday is still pretty great. The lady is very pissed off at me. She told me she had hated me a number of times, all the while shaving Chad's head bald and then going to that finely manicured chin beard, which, I mean, if you know Chad, it's, good, I don't know, what is that, 4 inches, 5 inches? So that's something he takes his time making sure it's this length and it's this thickness and it's this shape. A little too much waste of time for me, but not for Chad. And all she did was take that head trimmer, whoop, shaved it right up. I mean, you could just hear the horror that was transpiring in that room. And again, I don't know where that video would be. Somewhere. Maybe it's living forever on Outdoor Cooking Channel. Maybe it's even before. That's probably still Outdoor Cooking Channel at that time. In any event, make sure you're subscribed to the Best Moments Show. You can do that by visiting the subscription page on the main website, which is thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. And you can also send our pal John Solberg, who executively produces the Best Moments Show, your take on what you would like to hear as far as segments lost in the archives or past guests that you would like to hear from again, segments that you really like. Email John, let him know what you would like to hear. Jon, Jon, at the BB. What the hell was that? Something just fell over. I don't have any. There's nothing even set up over there. I mean, what the hell? It's got to be a stupid cat doing stupid cat things. In any event, email John. He'll do his best to meet your expectation. Now, before we get to Byron, I want to address something that's very important and something that I've been hearing a lot about these last couple days, which is people around me telling me that they think they are probably not going to fly anymore because of all of these plane crashes that have been happening. Look, take it from me, somebody who's been in the aviation sector, even if it was only for a couple years, and by the end I wanted to blow my head off instead of going into the office and work. Outside of that, spent a lot of time around a lot of commercial airliners. I can tell you with 100% certainty that if you are among the quick-to-react crowd, put it out of your mind immediately. Do not hesitate for 1 second to get on the next plane to wherever it is that you're going to be going and then taking the plane that is bringing you back. Because like my service director said today, well, I don't know if I want to get on a plane, and one tipped over in Toronto. Indeed it did. But let me ask you something. How many planes in the world took off and landed today without incident? Not only that, how many planes, how about just in this country, took off and landed without incident on Monday? Let's take the day that that plane tipped over on landing in Toronto. How many other planes crashed, had fatality, had to abort, had anything major go on that you heard about? That's right. None. You have any idea how many car accidents happen every day? How many thousands of planes are in the air every day of every week and you hear nothing about it? I'm telling you right now, cast your fears aside. This is nothing to worry about. Does it seem like a big deal? Of course. Is it that big of a deal? No, it is not. When you consider the amount of landings and takeoffs that happen each and every day without incident, with the number of people that are on there versus the shitheads that are on the road taking each other out, you have nothing to worry. You should be screaming to get on planes at all times. Thank you, and that's it. Got to make sure I don't go over. Keep on track for our pal Byron. The Icon. He's ready to go. Why don't you celebrate Big Papa Smoker's 15th anniversary along with me and along with their Ultimate Barbecue Essentials? From the award-winning rubs and sauces to premium grills and smokers, Big Papa's has everything the barbecue lover in your life needs. Discover Pitmaster favorites like Sweet Money, one of my favorites, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Double Secret, the competition brisket and steak rubs. There is a veritable cornucopia of Big Papa's flavored rubs, and they're all one better than the next. So good. They even have Sweet Money Hot, one of my favorites now on pretty much everything. At the finish, Happy Ending Rub. Plus, I like the name a lot. For a limited time, you can use promo code REMPE15, R-E-M-P-E, and then the numerals 15 at checkout and get 15% off your purchase. Some exclusions apply, so visit BigPapaSmokers.com for all the details. Big Papa Smokers, where your food just got better. REMPE15 for 15% off your entire order, and exclusions apply. We're back with Byron Chisholm right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. Step into the world of McAuliffe Cigars, where each blend is a chapter and a grand tale of craftsmanship and passion. Of course, the Color Series, one of my favorites, black, blue, red, new colors to be introduced yet in 2025. Also, the Leanda, which I'm smoking recently. Fabulous. McAuliffeCigars.com and use the locator. Find a retailer near you. Leading off the second hour tonight, a man who just might have pioneered the selling of barbecue rubs now more than 22 years ago, maybe 23 years ago. If you aren't familiar with the products, then you are in for a treat tonight. We welcome back a 2023 Barbecue Hall of Fame inductee and the creator of the Butt Rub Empire, Byron Chisholm, joining us here on the show. Hey, Byron.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you again.
We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests tonight. The worst sports game to watch are all-star games of any type, yes or no?
It's way up there. Yeah. It's way up there.
80% of the YouTube voting public is saying yes. All-star games are some of the worst games to watch when it comes to sports. I have to come clean here, Byron. Last time you were on the show was end of June in 2023. And I introduced you at that point as first-time guest, Byron Chisholm. But believe it or not, you had already been on the show once before, all the way back in live show infancy, April in 2008. How do I know that? Because the guy that does my Best Moments show, his job is to go back and listen to all my old shows. And he said, hey, dummy, you just introduced Byron as a first-time guest in 2023, but he was all the way back on in 2008. Can you believe that we are still doing this thing all these years later?
Well, that's awesome, man. You have a good thing going, and I don't remember being on that actually.
That makes two of us.
Primitive. I might have just been running down the road on my cell phone talking to you about something. I don't even remember that. But
yeah, a lot of
I'd like to see that.
A lot of phone connection stuff back then. One of the biggest things that I don't remember. So I'm ashamed to say that I didn't. After I listened to it, then I remembered, oh, yeah, of course, yeah. So there was this whole other thing that happened. I had mentioned it on the show. You remember John Willingham?
Of course, yes.
So I don't think a lot of the audience knows who John Willingham is or what he meant to cookers, what he meant to barbecue in general, what he meant to competition barbecue, especially Memphis in May. But I had mentioned on the show years ago, I can't believe, I just want to share this with you. John Willingham called me and we had an off-air personal conversation for about 20 minutes and we talked about XYZ, and it was just like, I wanted to ask him all these questions. He was just way more interested in learning about the podcast and why I got into it and this and that. And John must have found that show. And he called me up like a kid in a candy store. He goes, "You got to tell me what you and John Willingham talked about." I said, "John, what are you talking about? I never had a phone call with John Willingham in my life." He said, "Well, I'm just listening to this show on this date, and you're going on and on about how John Willingham called you on the phone personally, and you had this 20-minute conversation." I said, "I can't be more embarrassed. I don't remember that for 1 second." This is how much content has probably flowed through the show over the last, almost 20 years in total between podcast and live show now, that something that major, there's a lot of things I probably should have forgot about doing this show. Talking to John Willingham is probably not a thing I would ever forget. And yet here I am saying once again that happened, and I don't recall 1 second of it. Is that embarrassing or what?
Yeah, just a little. But you could probably relive it, though. That's a good thing about doing this thing.
Wow.
It lives in infamy, right? John Willingham was a very interesting guy. I've met him on 2 or 3 occasions. When I just started with my business in 1997 and I started competing in 1998, I met him in 1998, and I'm just getting started. I'm green as I can be, and he's coming off this grand career. He was one of the early few that ever won Memphis in May and American Royal. And he was also, and I remember the Wham or whatever it was.
Yeah,
he created this cooker that was, yeah. And of course he had a lot of seasonings. I know he had a restaurant at one point in Memphis. So I didn't get to know him very well. I just knew who he was, and he was kind of revolutionary. He was really ahead of his time in terms of being he would be real proud, I guess, or fascinated of how barbecue has grown. What he knew and loved, just spread like wildfire, since his passing. But he's still got a book you probably know about. It's worth reading. I've got my copy, and I go through there every now and then. I'm like, wow, he was really onto something a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So pretty cool.
So when you talk about getting into this in 97, and here we are towards the middle of February in 2025.
Almost 28 years later.
What's the biggest, what do you think is the biggest change since when you started?
Well, I've got 2 spears of this. I started the business in 97, and it was just organic. It felt right. I had good response from this. It was just something I put together and gave us gifts. And I don't know, the strength of the response just encouraged me to really dive into it. And so I started selling it. So that was one thing. It was a year later before I started competing, because I was trying to bring this product to the masses. I started my website on 97, which was like pioneer days, Oh, yeah. But the good thing about it was I had buttrub.com set up where I could do mail orders, what I called. And so I could travel all over across the country. And even though I didn't have local stores, if I introduced this product to them and they liked it, then I was getting orders on buttrub.com. So I started my career with basically because the internet gave me that opportunity, in part. So,
are you surprised? So you said there was some initial good momentum from the people you were giving it as gifts to. Once you get it out for sale and you start picking up steam, did you think that, this many years down the road, it would still be such a juggernaut?
I've been asked that before, and I got a great stock answer. But basically, I believed in it, and once I believed in it, then there was no obstacle that was in my way. It was like, as long as that was in my heart and in my mind, and it's not, just me, like anybody I know, athletes will tell you that they might have been, no one else believed in them, but they believed in themselves, and they would make it to, the pros and whatever. But so I really thought I was onto something, and I just followed my heart. And every time I started to imagine how far this would go, my response was, man, I don't see any end in sight. And because there's so many grocery stores, there's food service, there's different ways of using it, and then there's different products you can develop. And I just saw a wide open deal with no end in sight. And to this point, I've been accurate. I mean, it's been 28 years, and there's still regions of the country that we're working on getting in. There's new countries that we're working on distribution. So it's still growing. It's not at the peak of its growth. These last 4 years have been, how it goes with inflation and stuff like that. It's kind of put a little bit of a damper on things, but basically we're holding our own pretty good. And so it's been a gift and a good life, and I'm just grateful for barbecue and the opportunity. I think the timing had a lot to do with it that helped me out.
Do you feel or did you know from the beginning that success of Butt Rub was going to be in physical locations versus just being something that you were going to promote online?
Well, I kind of knew all along that I needed to get in the grocery stores. Now, this was before, Ace Hardware and Lowe's and Home Depot.
Yeah.
To me, the pipeline was grocery stores. I'm like, if I'm going to make a living at this, that's where I ultimately have to get. But everyone I sent a letter to, I didn't ever hear from. So I said, okay, I'll go around you. I said, we'll start buttrub.com. I'll do the LL Beam, the mail order business. So, and the mom and pop stores. I was probably getting a mom and pop store every other day. And, we're just kind of building and then get more and more mail orders and just baby stepping it. And then we finally started getting into the independent grocery stores. That's when the doors kind of opened up, and they were easy to work with. And once we got in, like the Piggly Wigglies, well, like the one in Alabama, there's like 350 based out of Birmingham. I said, we've cleared you. But you got to sell it to each one. So there was a lot of road tripping. And I had a good sales, and he's still with me, Robert Worsley. He was going to store just like I was. So between the two of us, we built up several hundred stores in a year or two, and it was like trickle until we finally kind of got on cruise control with it.
Were you a good business guy right off the bat, or is that something you had to mold into?
I remember back in the college days and stuff, I couldn't keep a check, bro. I never knew how much money I had. I didn't have much anyway, but I was terrible at that kind of thing. But I started the business, and all of a sudden, man, I can tell you to the penny what I had. It's like I was forced to become good at that because I had to. I wanted this thing to survive so bad. I was really driven by the fact that I didn't want to go to work for somebody else again. I'm like, I had an independent free spirit, and I just wanted to find my groove and be in charge. Because every time I have good ideas, it gets shut down by people that I was working for. And it's like I finally was just free to go my way and be in charge. And it was a beautiful thing. So I'm real grateful for that. And another thing about when I started, rubs were not, it was not a thing. We would have to explain it was not in grocery stores. Yeah. There was no such thing. So we had to explain to people what a rub was. And then, okay. And by the way, I like, want to put a couple of cases in here. A lot of them would just give it a shot to see how it do. And they were fascinated that it would do, it was getting attention. And of course the packaging helped, butt rub, a little butt rub makes everything better. When people quit laughing, then they'd say, I know somebody who cooks, and, I'll buy one for them, So I think that if it wasn't for the creative packaging, they'd have just walked right by it, and it would have been an obscure thing that wouldn't have gone anywhere. So
when you're talking to people about, or new people about barbecue, when they're asking you for advice, and let's go down to 4 main meats, why not? Because you're a master at all of them. When people talk to you about brisket, what are the 2 or 3 things you're telling them now they need to focus on to be a good brisket cook?
Well, if they're just getting started cooking, I always tell them that the brisket's kind of advanced. I'm like, get real comfortable with your equipment, cook a lot of chicken, and, you develop your skills for working a grill and for using your senses and paying attention to, become more confident in what you're doing. And you'll get the brisket later. Because I mean, even for me, I remember, man, that's like learning to be a cook, and the first thing you cook is gumbo. Okay, I mean, no, you kind of want to do some simpler things and get better at it. So I always tell people, just think about every time you fire that grill up, you're going to learn something. But get your head out of the recipes and the books and everybody else's. You're going to develop your own way of doing it, but keep it simple and use your senses. You know, look at what you're doing, feel at what you're doing. You know, your 5 senses are your best tools that you have. And a lot of times people, they're just thinking about a recipe and they got these electronic gauges and, you know, it's like, this is a beautiful cooking form. And, you know, you got a live fire. Just, you know, use your senses and enjoy the moment and try not to get too technical. And it's not like you have to do a ton of things. It's not like you've got to marinate, inject. But I mean, you know, in competition barbecue, we get carried off in that. But in general barbecue terms, really, if you think about what Central Texas is a good example, you can have some of the best brisket in the world. It's got salt and pepper on it, and it's been cooked with wood, and it was probably wrapped toward the end. But it's real basic. It doesn't. You don't have to do 1,000 things to it to make it good. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. If we look back at the rub business again, where do you get a lot of business from that surprises you? Whether that be from you know, out of country or even within the States.
In the beginning, I remember, man, about every other order we were getting on the internet was from California. It was like it kind of surprised me because, you know, you think of, but a barbecue rub, you know, that's a, you know, for us, you know, barbecue means different things to different people. But fortunately, it's a good grilling rub also. It doesn't have sugar in it, so you can high heat cook it. So I think they were doing a lot of grilling in California, and there wasn't anything for grilling. And I'd say, oh, barbecue. And then, you know, so it caught on in California real early, and that kind of surprised me a little bit. Now, it's interesting. We have a couple of European distributors, and it does pretty good out there, you know, but our core is still, you know, the Southeast, because that's where we started. That's where we have the most amount of stores. And that's our most loyal customer base in terms of brand loyalty. You know, a lot of people in the deep South, I meet people all the time that have been using this 20 years, 25 years. And it's like, I met a guy one time, him and his wife and his kid. He said, my daddy and my uncles, he said, I grew up, every barbecue I remember, butt rub was there. And he said, and we use it now. So I'm really flattered to meet people like that. And that's why around here, anytime I go to the store, I've always got my butt rub shirt on. And I'm not really trying to overpimp my product. It's just that it opens the door, because, you know, I'm not the My Pillow guy. People don't know who I am. I just got this shirt on. So they start talking about, oh yeah, I use that stuff. And, you know, we just kind of, and about 5 minutes later, it's like, damn, you work for them or something? I was like, well, I'm the creator of the product. Come on. Hey, come get our picture. You know, all this. And I love that, because I love being able to meet people that are a good example of what has given me a living. You know, they're a subset of the pie that's allowed me to have going on 28 years now to make a living selling a barbecue seasoning. You know, we got other products, but it's like, I'm in the butt rub business. It's like, this is 98% of our sales. So,
would you get into this business now if butt rub was just something that was coming to you?
If my heart told me to, but it's a whole different landscape now. It's a very crowded field. There's an extraordinary amount of products out there, and I'm just glad we got in when we did, and kind of grab some brand loyalty and grab some good customer base, because it's noisy out there. It's tough. It's tough battling that. But fortunately, like I said, we've got a lot of stores that have had us for a long time, and we just kind of hold our own, you know. And I think, you know, in time, the free market, you know, that not everyone can survive with it. A lot of people just kind of testing the waters and seeing how it does. But for me, when I started it, I'm like, this is my job now. It wasn't a weekend thing. It wasn't like, well, we'll just dangle this around and see how it goes. I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I dove in. And fortunately, that was the approach that I needed to take, I suppose.
You have a cookbook?
No, but I've been taking notes for a long time. I got shoeboxes full of all kind of information. One of these days, maybe I need to put that together. You and I were talking about that last time I talked to you, and I just thought cookbooks are kind of, everybody goes online for information, but you say they're doing pretty good.
I mean, it seems like every spring, getting ready for grilling season, there's a slew of brand new, all the same cookbooks, new authors, but they're doing what they did last year. They're doing what they did 5 years ago. It's a book that talks about what barbecue is and what smoking is and the different kinds of cookers and what the benefits are. And maybe they have some handwritten illustrations, or maybe there's some real pictures. And eventually it evolves into beef recipes, pork recipes, chicken recipes, side dishes. Mm-hmm. It's all the similar theme book, but it's Dr. Barbecue writing one, it's Byron writing one, it's Myron writing one. I'm surprised, given who you are and everything that you've accomplished, you don't have even one book to credit.
Well, I guess I better get on it.
Do you know anybody in the barbecue industry that's written a book that might be able to help out?
Oh, I know a lot of people in the book. So you planted a seed, and who knows? I mean, when I feel like I'm heart driven, if something is nagging at me and it don't go away, I'll follow through with it. So it would be a fun thing to do, and it's a big market for it, and a lot of people, they need recipes. They feel comfortable with recipes, and so who knows? Yeah.
Would you rather have, if you had a book, you've been on TV before, would you rather have a successful cookbook, or would you rather be on a TV show?
I suppose TV is really, I did the early, before Pitmasters, there were a couple of, the original one that I remember was Barbecue All-Stars. That was a lot of fun.
I remember.
And then they did the Barbecue Championship Series, and I think they let it rest a little while, and then came back with barbecue, the Pitmasters. Now, my early days of doing that was fun. I really liked it, but following that path was just not in my heart. As far as doing a cook, since I never had a cookbook, it's hard for me to be able to answer that. Other than I think I could see taking that book and going on some, that would be fun to go to different places and talk about barbecue and promote your book. So I guess the book direction.
Were you on the version of, it was like on Outdoor Life or HLN or whatever? Was that the version where you guys had to kill the stuff first?
OLN.
Outdoor Life Network.
Yeah. I was on the original one, Barbecue All-Stars. There was 8 All-Stars and there were 8 challengers.
So it was like,
and then the next time
Mike
around,
Mills, was it Mike Mills, Mike Davis, and Leanne
Mike
Whippen?
Davis, yes, Dr. Barbecue, Bart Clark.
Clark, oh my God.
Let's see, Fast Eddie was on there. Yeah.
Wow. Classic names.
I'm missing somebody. Yeah, and Myron, of course, was on that. Yeah.
And you guys had to kill one of those, dispatch one of the dishes first before you started cooking it?
That was I think they're talking about the second year they had the Barbecue Championship Series.
Oh, right.
And most of the same people were on there. And then they added Johnny Trigg. And they kind of lost me when we had to they wanted us to cook frog legs, and we had to get the frogs and kill the frogs and stuff. I'm like, man, this is theatrical bullshit. I did not like it. I wasn't comfortable with it. And I'm like, I really liked the first year, though. That was more natural, authentic barbecuing, and it had some good humor and stuff like that. But then they tried to ramp up the theatrics, and I said, that's the end of my career. I don't like this. So,
will you do barbecue competition still? You going to do anything this year?
My last year I competed was really 2019, right before COVID, kind of closed the door for a little while. So that was, I competed 21 years total. The first 10 years, my heart was on fire for it. And that's when I had my best results. I mean, I was just living it and breathing it, going to bed, thinking about it, waking up, thinking about it, practicing. I mean, I couldn't get enough. It was just so exciting. And, I was on the road. I was one of the early people who would cross regions. Most people just cooked in the region they lived in because that's where they worked and stuff. It's just a practical thing to do. But I'm in the barbecue, and I'm Mr. going to the next big event, wherever it was. And that was a real exciting time. The freedom of the road, going to the next event, and hoping for a chance to win, of course. And, fortunately, thanks to the KCBS, I knew the rules, and I knew it was going to be a fair deal. So it doesn't matter what region of the country I showed up at. I have, it's not being judged by the local mayor and all this, So it was an exciting time. And I'm real grateful for, of course, all the sanction bodies were good, but that was the one that I connected to at the time. But to answer your question, it ran its course. Really, it was about 2012. I was going to try to wrap it up, and that's when they started having the ones in Europe. The first one was in 2012. It was the first one outside of North America was in Amsterdam. I'm like, man, I'm going. I'm like, I don't know where I'm getting the cookers. I don't know where I'm getting my meat, but I'm going. And I'm like, I'll figure it out. I'm like, that's history. And so I was just about to, my heart had kind of checked out. So, but when they did that, I was like, I got to be there. I just got to be there. And that started a whole new little deal going over there. And for a while there was 30 something KCBS events a year in Europe for a while. It slowed down a little bit, but it's still alive and well over there.
How many countries do you end up cooking through?
Well, I did that one in Amsterdam, and I was like, it was such a great experience. I was treated so nicely. I was the only American there, and I know there were about 12 countries. I had my American flag out, and little kids were taking pictures next to me with my flag and Mr. Barbecue, and it was just such a great experience. I couldn't wait to do it again. So when they started popping up, I'm there. And there was a 9-year period where I had done 35 or so total, and I wound up going to a few other countries outside of Europe. Before it was over, I have competed in 19 countries total.
Wow.
One of them being the U.S., but it wound up being all over Europe, and let's see, of course, Canada. Australia was interesting. The first 2 KCBSs they had there was Sydney and Melbourne. And so I was there 2 weeks. I did both of those events. So my theme in life at that point was seeing the world through barbecue. And, before it had been real important for the team of the year points and, going to the biggest events because that's where they had the most points. And that was exciting and fun. But now this mission was more like, I'm representing our country, and I became real patriotic doing that. And so I'm glad I got to do that. And so there was a good 9 years. But then, when COVID hit and everybody slowed down, it broke the stride of everything. And I got used to not competing, and I got used to not traveling like that, and started kind of building a world over here in Tennessee where I'm at now. And, I'm kind of homeboy now. I still travel a little bit, but it kind of feels good to just I have a couple of barbecue events here at my place. So I've gone to so many events, but now, I can organize my own to a extent. It's not competitions, but we're bringing in music and barbecue, traditional barbecue. I've got an old Texas pit, and I've got the original Southern pit, brick pit. And so we're doing traditional barbecue and introducing it to people for the first time the old school way, and bringing in music. And usually it's for charity, mostly for the animals. That's my favorite. So.
How long?
Kind of grandpa life.
If you decided you wanted to get back into competition barbecue, hypothetically speaking, how long would it take you to get team of the year ready if you wanted to get back into competitions in a serious way?
I'd have to really have a heart's on fire for that, because it all starts with your passion.
Yeah.
Your head can tell you stuff, but until your heart tells you and gives you the energy and the passion to you got to live it. When I did my best, my years that I won the most of all the awards I won, I did them pretty much in the first 10 years, because that's just living and breathing it. And just, I don't know. If I don't see me. Life has its cycles, and it's just it's kind of competition barbecue was some of the greatest times of my life, but I don't really want to go back. I mean, it's ran its course. 21 years. In most competitions, sports or whatever, a 10-year run is pretty good,
Yeah.
and mine was more like 21. So I don't see going back. And it's I don't know. I think I hit it in some great years, and we were all original artists back then. It was before internet. It was before people did classes. If people were winning, the last thing they're going to do is tell you what they were doing, and so you had to figure it out. So if you had a skill set for cooking, and if you're a natural born cook, you had a leg up. But now, I mean, you could train a non-cook to be competitive. But whatever. Everything changes, So as long as people are enjoying doing what they're doing, then that's more power to them. So,
Who were your biggest mentors when you were really hitting on all cylinders? Who would you go to for advice, or who would you bounce ideas off of?
I had a good rapport with some judges, and it's fair game. They would answer anybody's questions. What they see, what impressed them, what they like about it. I had several judges that in fact, Stephen Smith was one of my best friends. He was one of the early certified master judges, and he cooked with me, and we hit it off, and he traveled with me a lot. I learned so much from him because he had judged, if he was a master, I think him and his wife had cooked, judged, 50 or more contests. So I learned a lot from him. In terms of cooks, good question. I know Johnny Trigg and I talked a lot about when he was at his best was when I was at my best. But fortunately for him, he'd beat me more often than I'd beat him. There was one year I had 5 reserve champions to his grands.
Oof.
1 year.
Always the bridesmaid.
Yeah. And then there was 2 that I'd won, and he was reserve. So of the seven that we were grand reserve, he had me on 5. And I finally learned, man, you don't want to go when you go to the awards. You find where Johnny is, go somewhere on the other side of the field, because whenever you start getting some calls, he'll come over and congratulate you, like after pork. All right, you got this, and Chisholm, you got this, and it's like, the first couple of times, yeah, Johnny, I don't know, man, and sure enough, he'd wind up winning, and so finally, I'm like, okay, don't let Johnny congratulate you before this thing's over. I'd find him, I'd go on the other side. I wouldn't let him near me. But he was a lot of fun. He was a great competitor. He was tough. He had a lot more experience than I did. But I was catching up to him. We had a lot of fun together. That's for sure.
We talked a lot about butt rub tonight, but there's other products that you had mentioned. What are they, and how well are they doing?
Our butt rub sauce is doing pretty good. It's just it's the sauce that I created in barbecue. I didn't like it too pasty. I didn't like it too, it's just a balance of sweet, heat, and tart. And I didn't, it's kind of fluid. And I created that with for pork and ribs. And finally, I was like, well, hey, why don't I market this? Why don't I just add this with the rest of my stuff? So it's holding its own. There's so many sauces out there, and everybody's been using what they like for a long time. So I didn't think I'd take over the sauce business or anything like that. But of all the people who use butt rub, I figured a lot of people would give it a shot. Yeah. And for a lot of them, they like it. So that, and as far as grocery goes, most of all our other products, Go Juice is a pepper sauce. People love that. That's basically a mail order and specialty store item. Jubilee seafood seasoning. Most people, we sell it in seafood markets, and we were in Publix with it for a long time. But, I'm really proud of that product. It just doesn't have the pizzazz that butt rub does. So we put all our attention on butt rub, really.
So you had, last time you were on the show, you had sent me a care package, and it included a bottle of the Jubilee and a bottle of that Go Juice. And I got to tell you, so I'm not a huge seafood guy necessarily, but when we'll have some fish or whatever, Immediately went to the Jubilee. It's fantastic. Very good
Thank you.
seasoning.
Thank you very much.
I agree with what you were saying previous to that, which was this Go Juice. It is incredible. It's got you can visibly see peppers in it. It's got a nice tang. It's not melt your face off kind of heat. It goes great in a whole bunch of. I'm finding myself trying to figure out, well, maybe the Go Juice will go well in this, and then all of a sudden it's out. So it's a great product that people should really know about.
I'm real proud of Go Juice, but I have to get credit about that. That was a friend of mine. We had some pepper plants, and he started making these pepper sauces. His name's Duke Bardwell. He's a well-known musician. Was played for Elvis. He was his bass player for a couple of years, but a really good friend of mine. And he brought me some of this pepper sauce over. He called it Go Juice, and he's from Louisiana, so G-A-U-X, Go Juice. And I fell in love with it. I'm like, I've had pepper sauce before. It's a classic Southern condiment, but this, it had that white balsamic vinegar and a little bit of honey in there, and so it's just a hint of sweet, but smooth heat, and with the garlic in there too. So I'm like, it's a very unique pepper sauce. So I started using it in competition barbecue. So it's like he would have to bring me some over every few weeks because I'm using it for pork injection, pork based, all this kind of stuff. Wow. And for anywhere I use vinegar, I was using that, and it gave it another dimension. So one day I'm like, man, it's a great product. It's unique. It's got a cool name. I'm like, Byron, you know what business you're in, right? So I was like, hey, his name's Duke. I said, Duke, well, what do you think about me putting this on the market? Oh, really? He was so flattered. And he still is. God bless him, man. He's a good guy. So the thing is, it has to be handmade. So it's not something we can mass produce and get in a bunch of stores. But we get, when peppers are in season, we get about, 5 or 6 pallets, and that gets us for the year, so. There's some restaurants down there on 30A in Florida that carry it, bring it to the table and whatnot. But no, that's where Go Juice came from. Yeah. I'm real proud of it. Also, and I need to mention that I have Ed Royce Original Happy Holla, which is a seasoning he put together back in '86, I believe. Wow. And a lot of people really like that seasoning. I used to use it on brisket in addition to butt rub, but it's a beautiful product. And when he told me a few years ago that says, yeah, I'm just going to have to let it go. He says, I'm tired of fooling with it. He says, I'm 91 now. And I said, well, Ed, so what about the products? He said, well, I said, let me buy that and I'll carry it on. So we're selling, Happy Holla, and a lot of people in the state competitions, a number of people are buying it for that. Huh. Apparently it's pretty good in the state competition world. But I'm proud to have that because he's an iconic guy too. Oh, yeah. Talking about John Willingham, Ed Roy's up there too, and so I just couldn't see it dying on the vines, and because I knew I wanted some around, and it's good on a lot of stuff. So the Happy Holla original seasoning we got.
Byron, this has been a great visit once again, and would love to do it more than once every couple of years here. So I'll do my end of that. Okay. Try and get your book back up again. It's Byron Chisholm. ButtRub.com is the website, of course. So grab all the products that you can and enjoy them at your leisure. Byron, appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Been a pleasure, Greg. Thank you, brother.
You got it.
Take care.
The iconic Byron Chisholm right there, talking about the history of butt rub and some of the other products. Little barbecue tip there. I had no idea that he had made, was quickly growing disinterested in American competition barbecue, and then all of a sudden was reinvigorated with going outside of the country and doing the barbecue competitions out there. 35 and
Let's
19.
Get back to a guy who has more experience giving
I don't even know what happened.
Opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Just hold on a second. I don't like how that ended. Let me see here. I want that. Here. Yeah, all right. Let's do it like this. There we go. It's a lot of out-of-the-country competitions and a lot of countries visiting. Very cool. Yet another great interview this evening with another great person that is involved in the long-time success of barbecue and grilling. All right, before we wrap it up, talk to you quickly about my guy David McDowell over at the Barbecue Diet Program. The website is this school, like the thing you used to go to and learn at, but you don't spell it like that. You spell it SKOOL, school.com. Then at the top where it says search anything, search the BBQ Diet, and it pops right up. Got a little hamburger on there. It says the Barbecue Diet. $5 a month to join the community. Cheap, $60 for the year. There's almost 80 or so people in there right now. Hop in, be a part of the movement. I'm currently in week 2 and I'm hitting it hard. Why am I hitting it hard? Because I gotta win the most shredded contest in about 3 weeks when we all head down to Orlando, Florida, and it's gonna be me versus Army Steve versus Quentin, the former star football player at Seton Hill University, versus Carter, former Division III lacrosse player, and I am planning to win. David is helping me get there. We're on the eating program. We're on the weights program. By looking to get like 80 pounds of muscle on me, I'm just not that body type. We both agree. I'm a guy that could spend 10 years putting on 6 pounds of muscle the right way. I don't have time for that. I'll be dead in a week. But I can lean and rip. That's what we're shooting for right now. So when the shirts come off in mid-March, your boy's looking to take home the trophy. I'll keep you updated on that. No pictures, though. You'll have to take my word for it. So don't wait. You can get after it along with me and the 80 other people that are in the community over at the Barbecue Diet. Again, it's school, SKOOL, school.com. Then search the BBQ Diet in the search field. It pops right up, and away you go. All right, we're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
We thank Byron Chisholm for joining us for the last extended segment. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Buttrub.com, BUTTRub.com is the place to go to find those products. Again, if the Go Juice is available for sale on the website, like, buy that. It's great. Super great. Byron, you want to send me a few extra bottles of the Go Juice? Why not? I would be more than appreciative. All right, let's get out of here. All the way back in the first hour is my pal Stephen Reichland, the creator of Barbecue Bible, wrote the Barbecue Bible book, has a new book coming out, Planet Griddle. New book after that called Barbecue University, and then he might call it a career. Wow. First announced on the show. Could be the beginning of the end for Stephen Reichland writing barbecue books. After Stephen, Wes Wright. We were talking about the business of barbecue over the last 30 days. Closing it out with Byron Chisholm from Bad Byron's Butt Rub. And the sauce and Jubilee Seafood Rub and the Go Juice. Ed Royce Challah Rub. Sweet Challah. Hey, next week is the fourth Tuesday of the month. We have rescheduled Mac Weaver from Memphis in May. He'll be in the first hour. Second hour, we have the embedded correspondence. And sitting in for John Stolberg next week, Sam the Cooking Guy. So look out for that. Whole new list of 100% assurity questions. We'll have some other topics as well. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a jam-packed show and another great one at that. So, how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe saying, Shalom!
Hi, this is Jeff Richards, Columbus, Ohio. You're listening to Barbecue Central.